Hello, so I got asked to make a video about Japanese giving and receiving verbs, so that's what I'm doing. This video is giving verbs, as you young people say. As far as I'm concerned, there are really three processes you need to go through, three big steps to master use of Japanese giving and receiving verbs. The first is just using the verbs as is, the second is using them with the te form, and the third is using them with the causative te form. However, I should state that generally speaking, these grammar points usually have multiple chapters, if not textbooks, in between them, and are not usually learned all at once. So I would not recommend learning them all at once. Master each one before you go to the next. And of course, for instance, before learning how the giving verbs work with the te form, master the te form. Before learning how they work with the causative, master the causative. I made a video on that. I have textbooks on it on my website. They're free. Check it out. But I very much don't recommend learning all of these at once because you will get them mixed up and you don't have the proper scaffolding. If you know them all and you want to review, great. But my number one recommendation is take your time. So let's just start with the verbs as is. There are 4 Japanese verbs that are used for giving and receiving, 3 of which mean to give, and the 2 big ones, the ones that are covered in textbooks, etc., are ageru and kureru. So these both mean give, and they're both ru verbs, so agemasu, kuremasu. Now, since these both mean give, they're both used in the same basic grammar pattern. The giver is marked by wa or ga because they are doing the verb, which makes sense, and then the person or animal or whatever that they're giving something to is marked by ni. So theoretically, something like A-san ga B-san ni ageru and A-san ga B-san ni kureru would be absolutely okay and basically mean the same thing. A gave something to B. The thing being given wasn't stated in those sentences, but would obviously be marked by O, because it is what is being acted on by the verb, right? It's what is given. However, the difference between these two relates to the direction of the giving. That is, whether or not the act of giving moves into or out of your in-group. And what your in-group means is going to change depending on context, except for one thing. So if anyone ever gives anything to you, you're going to use kureru because it's coming into you. Likewise, if you ever give anything to anyone, you will always use ageru because it's always going out from your in-group. So if I give you a book, I would say watashi wa anata ni hono agemasu, right? I'm using the going out verb. Whereas if you give me a book, I would say anata wa watashi ni hono kuremasu because you are giving in. Both verbs mean give. In both cases, the giver is marked by wa, the thing being given is marked by o, and the person receiving the gift is marked by ni, but we're switching the verb because it's going different directions. In other cases, your in-group may change. For instance, if you give something to your dad, you would use ageru because they are out-group. But if your friend gave something to your dad, you would use kureru because generally speaking, your family is considered more in than your friends. Whereas if a stranger gave something to your friend, you would use probably kureru in that context because again, friend versus stranger. Likewise, if you gave something to your boss, you would use agemasu, but if someone from like an outside company gave something to your boss, you would use kuremasu because in that case, you're part of the same company, right? You're part of the same team, and they are the outside ones. So in that case, kuremasu can kind of have a humbling effect. Now, if you don't know either person though, if you don't know the giver or the receiver, generally agemasu is used as kind of the neutral give, but you can switch to kuremasu, and in this case, it sort of depends on whose perspective you're taking. So if you just say like A-san ga B-san ni agemasu, you are just taking kind of the generic perspective saying A gave it to B, and neither is of any real relationship to you. But in an example like this, which comes from a book where actually a researcher is describing an action of giving that happens in a Natsume Soseki novel, they use kuremasu even though the main character of that novel is obviously not their in-group. Basically, they're taking the main character's perspective in describing that action. You don't really need to worry about this very much. You can just use agemasu in these kind of cases, and that's fine. And indeed, when you read it, there's no problem because, again, the doer of the verb gives, the person marked by ni receives. That doesn't change at all. It's just kind of like an emphasizer in these contexts. The third giving verb then is yaru, which is an u verb, so yarimasu. And this is used when you give something to somebody that is lower than you or in a way that shows disrespect or contempt. The kind of neutral way to use this, the way that's like okay and won't offend anybody or anything, is like if you give water to a plant or something like that. Traditionally, Japanese people would use this for giving food to animals, pets, etc., but that's actually changing a bit. I remember very keenly one of my teachers in my third year of Japanese saying that if anyone uses yaru to give food to their dog, they will kill them. You know, a joke, but with a little bit of seriousness behind it. And generally the idea that, animals are family members and therefore you want to use agemasu when you give something to them is kind of increasing, right? It shows affection. Just like some Japanese people will use imasu to talk about their stuffed animals. By using that verb, it kind of humanizes them in a little bit of a way. If you use yaru, though, to give something to a person, you are either showing that you really don't like that person or you're kind of upset about it, like okane o yaru is like, oh, okay, fine, I guess I'll give you the money. Or it can be just used in a way that reflects on yourself, showing that you're just kind of a badass. So you might see a group of people that are a little kind of, I don't know, rough around the edges or just, casual, being like, yaru, and to be like, I'll give it to you. And that shouldn't be read into any more than a group of, English speakers calling each other various profanities as a way of actual bonding. But don't ever say, like, to your boss, yaru, unless, like, you're planning on getting fired. Shoru yo yaru, like, I will give you the documents, is probably inappropriate. But if you see someone in a manga say, like, I'm gonna yaru you my resignation form, well, that's why they're using yaru, because they're really pissed off. Finally, then we have morao, which is obviously an uverb, right? Moraimasu. And this is used to receive. So in this case, the topic or subject of the sentence is the one who receives it, and they receive it from somebody who's marked by ni or kara. So if I receive a book from you, that'd be watashi wa anata kara hono moraimasu. Nothing tricky about that, and there's no, like, alternative verb. Now, as for the te form, these can be used with actions following the action in the te form to show that an action is done for somebody. Now, in some cases, this shows thankfulness or respect. So, for instance, if you do something for me, I can use kuremasu. I still use kureru, right, because the action is coming in to show that I'm thankful for it. So, like, if you made something for me, tsukutte kurete arigatou gozaimasu. Thank you for making that for me. But don't, like, overemphasize this. Don't go into, like, Orientalist logic here. The existence of these verbs does not mean that Japanese people are always thankful for every single action that happens. In some cases, these just show direction, because something like this is extremely useful in a language like Japanese, where they love to drop everything, right? In the earlier sentence I said, tsukutte kurete arigatou gozaimasu, that did not have a subject or a topic or a direct object. They're all dropped. But by using kureru, I make it clear that that came inwards from me, and contextually, the giver is also made clear. And indeed, I should caution that the te agemasu form, the to do something for, especially in the sonkeigo, the extremely polite te sashiagemasu form, is actually something that people kind of advise against. Because the view is that if you say you are doing it for somebody like that, it actually doesn't sound polite. It sounds like you are kind of buying a debt. So, for instance, shall I make it for you? Saying like tsukutte agemasu ka or tsukutte sashiagemasu ka is advised against in a lot of cases, whereas just tsukurimashou ka is better, like shall I, right? That's the more proper way to do that in those cases. Anyway, though, when you use this, again, it just shows kind of that the action is done for the benefit of another person, and at times expressing thankfulness, etc. So earlier I said, anata wa watashi ni hono kuremashita, would be you gave me a book. If I said, anata wa watashi ni hono kaite kuremashita, that means that you wrote a book for me. Again, in natural Japanese, very likely the giver or the receiver or both would be kind of dropped, but that would be kind of the full grammar of the sentence. Likewise, if I wrote a book for you, I would say, watashi wa anata ni hono kaite agemashita. Just like I would say, hono agemashita if I gave you a book. And agemasu can be used without any kind of issue when you're talking about a third party. Like if you're talking to your coworker and say that you made a reservation for your boss, saying, yoyaku o irete agemashita would be absolutely fine, because in that case, you're both aware that the boss is up. Whereas if you're actually talking to your boss, you'd probably want to use the humble form and just say that I did it, humbly. But that's for a video on Keiko. Again, while I want to stress that these do not always show respect or thankfulness, they can just show direction, dropping them is very unnatural. Not just because when you do need to show appreciation and thanks, it makes you sound rude, but just in general, something sounds flat. Like it sounds like something's missing from the statement. And again, personally, I think this is because when you have a language which likes to drop everything, sometimes that direction really needs to be there for people to understand what's going on in the sentence. So, if somebody looks something up for you online, you could say, shirabete kurete arigatou gozaimashita, and that would be absolutely okay. Whereas, shirabete arigatou gozaimashita would be odd. Finally, yaru is used when a verb is done towards someone, again, that you kind of look down upon or don't respect, or when you yourself just want to show that you're kind of rough. So, for instance, in an anime or manga, when somebody is, like, telling a villain that they're going to end their life, they'll say, kuroshite yaru, like, I will do the act of killing to you. And that's kind of a vulgar, aggressive way of saying that you're going to, kill somebody. Similarly, when I mentioned, like, okane o yaru is like a rude way of saying I'll give you money. Okane o kashite yaru is like a way of, like, all right, I'll loan you the money, but I don't respect you, and I look down on you for even asking. I think that you're a needy beggar, and I don't want to be doing this act. Whereas, kashite agemasu yo is like, oh, yeah, I'll loan you the money. That's A-okay. Don't you worry about it. Happy to. Again, though, if you see, like, a media product or just people in real life and they're all just kind of, casual, rough, whatever, they're using rough language to one another and they use yaru here and there, you shouldn't read into that as, like, actual contempt. It's just like, we are rough people using rough language and therefore we are too cool to use ageru and kureru, etc. We're just going to yaru each other and, that's fine. But again, don't do it to your boss unless you're, like, in an anime fighting them with samurai swords for something and they're actually an evil villain bent on destroying the world. Morale then needs us to switch our patterns again because, once again, the receiver, right, is not give but receive, is going to be the topic. So I would use this mostly to report that somebody did something for me, right? So, watashi wa sensei ni nihongo wo oshiete moraimashita would be I received, again, remember, I am doing the verb, the act of teaching from the teacher who is marked by ni. The act of teaching Japanese, because Japanese is marked by o. As a result, you generally don't say moratte arigatou gozaimasu because that seems weird. Like, something kurete arigatou gozaimasu is fine because you did this for me and I am thankful for it. Thank you. But with moratte, you are the topic, so you want to state something that, again, positions yourself as the focus of the sentence. So a phrase like, I am very thankful, kansha shimasu, would be a-okay, whereas arigatou gozaimasu would be very, very strange there. Because it'd be like in English saying, I received the act of you making dinner, thank you very much. Which just doesn't kind of match, you know what I mean? Whereas, I received the act of you making dinner, I'm very thankful for it, keeps you as the subject there. So the causative form then, remember that causative form can mean allow or make. When you use it with the te agemasu, te kuremasu, etc., it kind of basically is almost 100% guaranteed to be the allow one, because again, there's that potential thankfulness in addition to just direction. So let's compare, right? Hono kuremasu, I'm using kuremasu because it's coming into me, means gave me a book, right? Anata wa watashi ni hono kuremashita. Anata wa watashi ni hono yonde kuremashita means that you read the book for me, to me, and potentially I'm very thankful for that. Whereas anata wa watashi ni hono yomasete kuremashita means that you, again, you are the giver of the action, allowed me to read the book. You are the one who gave me permission. And it's very important, right, not to mix up the te and the sasete. For instance, I've seen learners of Japanese at the end of a presentation say, kikasete kurete arigatou gozaimasu, which is wrong, right? Because that means that the person you're talking to allowed you to listen, whereas what you want to say is kite kurete, because you're thanking them for listening to your speech. Sasete agemasu then is used when you allow someone to do something, but again, you don't usually want to use this when the person is higher status than you because it can sound like you're kind of pulling rank on them. But like if you're talking to your kid or something, you could actually say, yeah, okashi o tabe sasete agemasu yo, which is like, I will let you eat candy. The sasete pattern and yaru then aren't usually used together, but you may hear them in situations that are often kind of quite threatening. Do not use this really. Like iwasete yaru is like, I will allow you to say it, and it sounds very, very threatening, very contemptuous. Like, I'll put an example up here if I can find one, but I could imagine a villain in like a comic book who's just about to defeat the hero or something, saying like, Ippatsu yarasete yaru, and like, I will let you do it, and also like, I don't respect you. I'm stronger than you, ha ha ha. I'm using yaru instead of ageru to further your humiliation. It's not something you'd ever use outside of like kind of a fight, or if you're really looking to make kind of enemies. Although again, I could see a bunch of drunk dudes or, ruffians of all genders hanging out at an izakaya or something, and one of them's like, oh, look, that thing you're eating sounds good, tabe sasete kure, right? Allow me to eat it. And someone's like, tabe sasete yaru yo, like, oh yeah, I'll let you do it, and I'm using yaru because we're like a rough and tumble bunch. I don't know, like that could be there too. Finally then, morale again doesn't have any variance, it's just one verb, but you do have to flip everything around, right? So if you let me eat something, it's anata wa, because you are doing the verb, watashi ni tabe sasete kuremasu. But if I am allowed to eat something by you, that'd be watashi wa anata ni tabe sasete moraimasu. Because again, all of these forms, all of them, every single one, the topic or subject, whatever's marked by wa or ga, is the person or thing that does the final action of giving or receiving. And morale is receive, so I receive the act of the thing from you. Let's finish with just a comparison of everything. So if I give you alcohol, that's watashi wa anata ni osake o agemasu. If you give me alcohol, that's anata wa watashi ni osake o kuremasu. And if I give you alcohol but I don't respect you, watashi wa anata ni osake o yarimasu. But if I receive alcohol from you, watashi wa anata kara osake o moraimasu. However, if I'm going to buy alcohol for you, watashi wa anata ni osake o katte agemasu. If you are going to buy alcohol for me, anata wa watashi ni osake o katte kuremasu. Although saying it like that kind of sounds like you're going to do it, which is a bit weird. Kuremasu ka? Will you do it? Or kuremashita? Thank you. You did it in the past, right? I really appreciate it. I was very thirsty. Makes a lot more sense. Although, if there's like a plan and you're like, A is going to buy me the alcohol in the future, but we've made that plan, it's a sure thing, then you could definitely use kuremasu in that context. If I said watashi wa anata ni osake o katte yarimasu, or more likely yaru, it's a bit strange to use contemptuous language in the polite form. That would mean that I'm going to buy alcohol for you, but I'm also not a fan of you and I'm not happy about it. And then watashi wa anata ni osake o katte moraimashita would be I received buying alcohol from you. You bought me some alcohol. I think one reason people get these confused is that the English translations can sometimes flip things around. Like that final one would be probably more naturally translated as you bought me some alcohol, which puts you as the topic, whereas in the Japanese it's I received buying alcohol from you. So just don't pay attention to the English translation. Easy. Use your Japanese brain, not your English brain. A good translation is one that makes natural sense in the language it's translated into, but when you're trying to access the grammar, that may hide things from you. Then finally, with the saseru form, if you allowed me to drink some alcohol, that'd be anata wa watashi ni osake o nomasete kuremashita. If I allowed you to drink alcohol, I would say watashi wa anata ni osake o nomasete agemasu. Although again, in actual polite Japanese, it'd be better just to say something like, it's okay if you drink alcohol, or please go ahead and have some alcohol. And then if I'm like making you drink alcohol as a punishment because I don't like you, I might say something like, watashi wa anata ni osake o nomasete yaru. Although again, that sounds like something that a demon that is trying to punish a drunkard in hell would say, as they force them to drink so much alcohol they don't like it. Kind of like Homer Simpson eating so many donuts he gets sick kind of thing.
Have all the donuts in the world!
And then finally, if I am the focus, but I want to say that you allowed me to drink alcohol using moraimasu, I flip it around and make myself the topic, so watashi wa anata ni osake o nomasete moraimashita. I received the permission, the ability to drink the alcohol from you. I am thankful, but I won't say thank you because I am the topic. So, there you go. Watashi wa anata ni setsumei o agemashita kara, anata wa watashi ni like to toroku o kuremasu ne. Shinai to de yarimasu.